Today on Riffs, Beards, and Gear, we talk about room treatment and Vicoustic USA. So today we are finally going to get into a conversation about room treatment, and specifically my room treatment that I had treated by Vicoustic USA. Now, sound treatment is not soundproofing. A lot of people like to interchange those two terms, but those are not the same thing. Soundproofing, for example, is something like building a double-walled studio and being able to play a drum set while standing around outside the door and still being able to have a conversation. That is not what sound treatment does. The objective of sound treatment is to get what you are listening to through your monitors, for example, when you mix, to be as accurate as possible and to reduce reflections coming from the walls back into your ears as much as possible. Sound treatment eliminates that and basically dampens the erroneous sounds that are bouncing off various things in your room and coming back and hitting you in the ears. And as a result, your room becomes much drier sounding in a good way, less lively, and you are able to properly hear the imaging coming from your monitors. Now, you guys have already noticed that my room has been treated by Vicoustic USA. Now, Vicoustic happens to be based in the Northwest. I'm in the Northwest. I gave them a call and we hugged and we patted each other on the head, and I said, "Please treat my room. Please, I want to take the next step." And they said, "We can help you." For many of us, room treatment is that final step just because of the cost that is associated with treating any given room. The larger, obviously, the more expensive that gets. So a lot of the times for you guys that are recording at home, it's just a gradual step, and getting your room treated is really the cherry on top of the sundae. Once you get the good monitors, once you get the good software, and once you hone your ear and learn how to really mix, and then you start eliminating all of the deficiencies, room treatment is really the final step in making your home studio legit, or a real studio, or a home theater, or whatever you're doing critical listening in. So how does the process work? Let's start right at the beginning. I contacted Vicoustic USA using their website, and all you do is shoot them an email and tell them what you want to do and that you're interested in possibly getting your room treated. After you send off your email, you will get a message from the mysterious Lauren. Lauren is, I don't know, I guess I would call her the oracle of the matrix that is Vicoustic. She is an all-knowing, all-mysterious being that has all of the knowledge and the power, and she waves her hand, and then you instantly have your room treated. It's amazing. No, but seriously, once you send an email to Vicoustic, you will then get an email back asking you what exactly you're using your room for. Are you watching movies? Is it like a home theater type of scenario? Is it a control room? Is it a tracking room? Are you primarily mastering in the room? Because all of those different kinds of rooms are treated differently. For example, in a home theater, maybe you don't want to kill all of the sub lows and the very low frequencies for the rumbles, and to not totally kill all the sound effects of the movie. From there, you are directed to a secret questionnaire where you fill out the nitty-gritty details of your room. Now, this part is critical, and accuracy is paramount. You need to know the construction of your house. You need to know the construction and makeup of materials in your room that you want to be treated. And finally, you are asked to provide measurements of your room, very detailed measurements. And this part is the most important and what is unique about Vicoustic USA. What I did is basically took some construction paper and a very long measuring tape, and I sat down for a day and measured every single surface of my room. They want to know everything, of where everything's at, the size of the trim. They even want to know where these little light fixtures and thermostat and vents are. And they need to know exactly how far away from the door it is, from the ceiling. You need to give a 3-point measurement for everything in your room, for every wall and every surface, and the top, ceiling, floor, everything. Vicoustic then takes those measurements and they load them and they build your room virtually in a CAD program, a very, very special program that can model your room exactly based on your measurements, which is why the measurement part is so critical. So for a typical room, I think this is slightly larger than a typical room. This is about 16 by 20, and it took about a week. And after a week passed, I got an email from the mysterious Lauren, and she broke down all the frequencies, the specs. She gave me a bunch of very, very nerdy graphs, which was awesome. And you then start to talk about what kind of treatment you would like. Do you want something from the studio line, which is a more inexpensive budget-based treatment, or would you like something from the premium line, which is the woods and the fancy pants stuff and, you know, that stuff. Now at this point, what differentiates Vicoustic from like a regular standard room treatment is they also look really good, and that is because they are a hybrid between room treatment and interior design. So the pieces will be very, very functional, but they will also just look fantastic, as opposed to having just a black panel hanging on your wall that doesn't look visually appealing at all, because really, we want our stuff to look good, right? So in this stage of the game, you will be emailing back and forth with Lauren quite a bit, and you are going to talk about colors, designs. They're going to ask, for example, if they can cut part of the trim or relocate a light, which I was asked to do. Now, I couldn't relocate a light because of the construction of my house, but I absolutely could trim some of the decorative wooden trim parts in order to put the panel in the corner. Also, treating your room with the wood and foam hybrid prevents over-treatment. So you really are only putting panels where they are absolutely needed, still leaving plenty of wall space to hang things like, you know, guitars. Now, one thing I also really, really liked about the Vicoustic stuff is the overhead treatment. It is unbelievably awesome. I was not really familiar with how an overhead treatment and overhead diffusion works, but essentially the sound is coming out of your monitors. Like I said before, it's hitting all the surfaces of your room, but especially it is going straight up to the ceiling, the high frequencies namely, and coming right back down to you, doubling up on a lot of frequencies, canceling out some others, and putting the diffusion. So while we were putting all this stuff up, we were putting panel by panel, and then I was playing a mix, and I'd play a song that I was familiar with on my iTunes, and we would put one panel, and then you could simply move your head over and hear it much more clearly, and then you can move your head back over to where there was no treatment above my head, and it was kind of messy, and the high end got kind of jarbled, which it wasn't something I was ever aware of before the treatment. Now, even though they look the same, the bass traps in the corner right here is a tuned bass trap and not a broadband absorber. So it is not just trying to capture all the frequencies, it is specifically working on the lower portion of this frequency spectrum, leaving the panels on the walls to really attack the mid-range and the upper end of the frequency spectrum. Anyway, I'm getting way off track here. So you're emailing with Lauren, you're deciding on what you want, how you want your room to look, and then you pull the trigger. And what you get is boxes and boxes of sweet looking Vicoustic panels. And you get detailed instructions on where to place each panel. You do it yourself. It comes with adhesive. All of these panels are glued to the wall, and you can pull them right off if you want to, but they will stay here indefinitely, and it is an amazing way to really fit the panels onto the wall without putting a bunch of holes in the wall. Now, in my case, for all the cut shots you have been seeing, I obviously had some help from Bert and Jason from Vicoustic because I couldn't operate a camera and put the panels on the wall at the same time. But I did help a little bit by ordering pizza and stuff. But the process went very, very, very fast. I was shocked at how streamlined and simple this entire process was. Now let's talk about the results and what the room treatment has really done for me and my mixes. Right away, I noticed a depth and a clarity. Everything I listened to after the treatment was installed seemed deep. It seemed very just rich and very 3D is the best way I can describe it. It was like suddenly everything was in HD, and before I was watching a VHS tape. I mean, really, that sounds a little dramatic, but it was really like lifting a veil off of my ears. And I sat here for hours after the treatment, just listening to my iTunes library, just going through and hearing new things and new cymbal hits. Yes, it is that dramatic of a difference, or at least it was for me, because I had very, very poor treatment and was just kind of hanging some miscellaneous panels here and there just to kind of deaden the room, but it really wasn't ever that effective. And I think that's really evident by the videos I did before I had the treatment and then after I've had the treatment. My low end especially, I was really never sure of where my low end was in any given mix. Sometimes I would nail it, and that was always by pure luck. Most of the time, looking back on my older mixes, I didn't nail it at all. The low end is just terrible. Overall, what these things build is a trust with your system and your monitors. The hardest part about getting your room treated is unlearning the things that you slowly adapted to with your room before the treatment. Like I mentioned, for me it was the low end, and I was always conscious that what I was hearing in the low end was much more or much less than what was actually present, and to not overcompensate, which most of the time I did. I overcompensated. So now it's just trusting what you're hearing and knowing what you're hearing is accurate. There's no better way to do that than with Vicoustic room treatment. It's been absolutely amazing, and I'm getting better and better at my mixes every day, I feel. And for all applicable information, links, and all of that good stuff, feel free to check them out below. If you have a room theater or anything like that, it doesn't have to be a mixing room, please feel free to hit up the Vicoustic USA website. They're amazing. You won't regret it. I am Fluff. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.